Hey guys, Brian here, and today I'm going to talk about why LTV or lifetime value is bullshit, and the most important thing is day one cash collected. Now this is particularly important for like online education businesses or service type of businesses that are using paid advertisement. And now I'm going to talk about why it's bullshit and why thinking too much about LTV can actually bankrupt you, and why this is the most important thing. So I'm going to show you two different graphs here. So these are basically two different types of business models. So this type of business model is SaaS or tech, even like e-commerce, like branded e-commerce, not like drop shipping, but like branded e-commerce. This is typically what happens in these type of businesses. And this is what can bankrupt you if you're in this type of business. So this is basically your cash. I'm gonna write that here, cash. So this is what happens. Day one of these type of businesses, SaaS tech or branded like e-commerce, like your own e-commerce product, typically you have to spend a bunch of money and then eventually you break even and then you start really making money. Like for tech or SaaS, that's why a lot of these have venture capital, or maybe the bankroll their own like businesses. Maybe you're a developer, you can like pay for like your own development cost, or obviously with AI like vibe coding tools, it gets a bit easier. Maybe there's less of a trough here, but there's generally always going to be a trough. For branded e-commerce, you have to pay for your development of your e-commerce product. You certainly have to pay for inventory and all this type of stuff. And even after that, with your e-commerce stuff, with every like say if you're making 10% profit, you're gonna have to throw that money back into inventory, and then it kind of, you slowly scale up these type of businesses with that method, unless you obviously can inject a load of cash from like private equity or whatever it is. But this is basically typically a cash situation of these type of businesses. This can bankrupt a service-based business or an online education businesses if we're not careful, because this can last for a year, depending on the business. Like for some tech companies, it could be 5 years, it could be more. Like Amazon didn't make a profit for I don't know how long, 10 years, maybe 15, 20 years, I don't know. But that's because they have their venture capital. That's what keeps them in business. That's what keeps them alive, because this is the thing that's going to bankrupt businesses if you're not very careful. And that's why, especially when you're doing paid advertisement, organic, it's a bit easier. Like especially if you have a good audience already, it's not as big of an issue. It still can be an issue, but not as big of an issue, basically. This is particularly important for paid advertisement. This is typically what happens in an online service or online education business, like coaching, consulting, and so on. This is typically what happens. You can basically start making money on day one, and you don't lose much money. Like as long as if you have a laptop, a phone, like the basic essentials, maybe basic software, that's usually the only software or money you have to spend, which generally doesn't cost a lot. This is typically what happens. It goes up, and then it kind of plateaus a little bit, because like in theory you can sell online courses, like if they're just purely online courses, you can sell as many as you want. But really it generally peters out, especially if you're dealing with done for you, 100%, done with you, one-on-one group coaching. They tend to peter out. And oftentimes people then use these type of business money to actually invest into SaaS, tech, e-commerce, real estate, like in other like stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff. So that's typically what happens there. But that's a side note. So particularly now, if on day one you're, typically this is what happens. So, but say for example, the lifetime value in this case is say 6K, but that lifetime value only pays out over 6 months. So that's like say $1,000 per month. So this 6 months is kind of like almost like a trough. So they pay $1,000 a month, but your cost, if you're doing paid advertisement now, your cost to acquire a customer cost $2,000 straight away. So that's $2,000. So that's the cost of your meta ads, plus there's a little bit of padding in there as well to pay for your operations, your software, maybe if you have a team. So there's the cost to acquire a customer through your online advertisement, plus the extra padding, maybe like 1.2 times or whatever. So we're just, for simple maths, we'll say 2K. But as you can see here, you're only collecting on day one $1,000. And then the rest is AR. So AR is accounts receivable. That's money that's owed to you over time. So your accounts receivable here is 5K. So like $6,000 minus $1,000, so 5,000. So in theory, you're getting this money back, but you're already down $1,000. So you're already down $1,000. So if you don't have enough cash reserves or basically savings, this can eat away at you like very, very quickly. And this obviously gets a lot harder when you're dealing with like massive scale. Like if you're spending a couple of $1,000s a day on ads and you don't have huge cash reserves, this can really mess you up. Even if you get this money and it's all owed to you in the future, sometimes a lot of the time this you won't get all this money back in the future. You may get an extra few thousand, you may not, but you still have to finance all this yourself. So this is really why that's really why you need to have your cash collected day one. Needs to be at minimum 2K in this case, obviously not all cases, but this case it's 2K because that's the cost to advertise and your cost for your team, your software, and all that with the padding in it. And then after that you have your AR. You should technically or theoretically get 4K back over the next couple of months, depends on if your payment plan is over 1 or 2 months or whatever. But that's why. But obviously, realistically, we want to get as much of this cash straight away. So we really want to get 6K back. So that's why we need to incentivize people to pay on day one. And if they can't, usually that's why we charge the financing costs, because we need as much money as we can to pay off our advertisements. So we need at least, in this case, 2K. That's 1.2 times the cost to acquire a customer. And ideally, the more the merrier, because the more money you have here, the more you can actually scale those paid ads. So that's generally why, in this particular situation, LTV is not what you're looking for. LTV is important for these type of businesses over here, or if you have an audience, or if you're like, you're doing some other stuff and your cost to acquire a customer is really small. But if you're doing like high ticket, heavy on the paid advertisement, this is why thinking too much about LTV can actually bankrupt you. This is the only thing that's important. So if you like this video and you want to watch another video on why the lead cost is also bullshit, like the cost of leads, as everyone's worried about what's your cost per lead, oh, is it this much, is it that much? That's not the most important thing. There's another thing that's more important. And if you're interested in that, check out that video right here. And see you guys in the next video.